Welcome to Scoop World Order. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. Got some news on the Arizona State ruling and how it affects Michigan. Dallin Hayden is heading to Colorado to play for Coach Prime. Very interesting choice there. We're going to break all that down, take your questions. The team is off for 3 straight weeks, which is a long time. We're talking a little bit about what that means and see how disciplined this unit is. Again, this isn't abnormal, but they're on semesters and they get this big break, and a lot of these guys are taking advantage of it, so they're going to get to go home for a little bit and chill. So we're going to get to all that. As always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us and kicking with us on this Monday evening. Again, I appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. You can alert every time we go, usually around 7 o'clock, so you guys are locked in and ready to roll with us throughout the night. If you guys have questions, fire the super chats up. The super chats are huge. Great way to support our Pay It Forward program. We've signed up a ton of first responders that have been fantastic people to get to know on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys do not belong to BuckeyeScoop.com, that is your comprehensive Ohio State inside information message board. Great family, great community, always incredibly active, which is really cool. Sometimes they get on in the middle of the night, and there's people on there talking Ohio State football at 3 a.m. So it's always fun to see the activity. So thank you to all of our Pay It Forward members that we have signed up for that. Thank you guys for supporting them, and we appreciate that so very much. And a special shout out to my guy, Devin. Devin put me on a group chat today, a group text with a bunch of you goons, and I think there were about 500 text messages today between him, Akeem, you guys know who you guys are. Bello, you guys are all in there. My phone was exploding. I had to mute it because my phone kept dinging in meetings. So shout out to Devin. I appreciate you, my man. And you're gonna have to buy me a portable phone charger because my battery was getting smoked today. So I appreciate you, bro. But it was hilarious because you guys were talking about killing alligators and wrestling snakes and golfing and about every other topic you can imagine. So you can imagine what this is in a text stream with our Scoop family members talking all day. So I appreciate you guys. Nevada, we'll start with Dallin Hayden because that just broke a little bit ago. Dallin Hayden is going to Colorado. I think Dallin is a very nice kid. I think that his parents are great, but I don't know how I would ever send anybody to Colorado given how erratic the program is. And again, Coach Prime says a lot of great stuff for the cameras, but that program, if you just read the tea leaves, is going to be an abject disaster. But what are your thoughts on Dallin Hayden to Colorado?
Well, Helping Technician had heard he was going to Ole Miss, which I thought was interesting and thought that was definitely a live possibility for him. So when I had heard about the Colorado visit, I heard about the interest in Colorado. It was a little odd because Dallin doesn't seem like a good fit for Colorado.
No.
And that program, now Peyton Kirkland, or that offensive lineman that went to Colorado,
Perfect.
Now that's a perfect fit for Colorado.
Yep.
That's like, that's a hand, meat, glove, and go to Colorado, and that's a great spot for you. But Dallin did not seem like a Colorado fit, but there he goes. So I don't know. And, Dallin's a nice kid who did some nice things for Ohio State, but I really have to question this decision. And this is what we do. We're paid to be here and to make our observations and give our thoughts. And people can agree, people can disagree. None of it's personal. But I really have to question the decision making because, like when you made your business decision of where you were going to go to school, you carefully weighed all your considerations and football, life after football, the NFL, development, education, you do the whole thing. I've done it with some of my kids as they're kind of evaluating what their options are going to college. This one just is a head scratcher because Colorado to me is the most obvious, just circle the drain cesspool that you could ever have. I mean, Coach Brown, he's not even trying right now. He's not recruiting. He's not going to visits. He says the reason he doesn't do it is because he's too famous and it makes it too hard on these schools when he shows up. And everything about it just seems like a guy who's just there punching the clock until his kids get out, and then he's gone. He's like the little league dad that coaches the little league 12U team, and as soon as junior's gone, man, he never coached another game again. So I just, if you're trying to build your program at Colorado, you're trying to see a future with Coach Prime, you're trying to see a development path, man, I just don't see it. I think all the serious football people there have come and left. And I just think it's a really questionable decision for Dowling. And I wish him no ill will. I wish him nothing but the best. But I really question this decision. And maybe I'm just an old head, and maybe I just don't understand what the right thing is. But this one just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I just don't know how you could be a serious football player and want to go to Colorado at this point when you've seen the exodus of players, the exodus of coaches, the exodus of, hype. I mean, they were as big of a hype freight train as I've ever seen after they beat TCU down at TCU. But the music stopped real quick when they played real teams like TCU. That's the problem sometimes with a preseason poll. It seems like TCU, which has been a brand name, they've been good. When they had Gary Patterson, they were really good. They're kind of a paper tiger last year, but they were rated, a little bit higher. And, Colorado goes down there and beats them. And Travis Hunter's electrifying. And, Shador Sanders will be a first-round pick next year. But outside of that, man, they're terrible. And when they played real teams like when they played Oregon, I mean, Oregon could have ran 150 points up on those guys. Because again, eventually you have to play like real football. And Sean Lewis, who's a great coach, was at Kent State, was the OC for Prime last year. He got out of there as fast as possible. He got demoted mid-season. They couldn't protect, Prime. The problem with Prime is he genuinely doesn't do any sort of, audit of the morale of the locker room when he says some of the stuff he does and does some of the stuff he does. Like, it's hard to keep a team together when you're constantly, you crap on the offensive lineman. You say, I'm going to go to the portal. I'm going to go get my Louis luggage. Like, he says all these dumb things. I'm like, that's just dumb. Because when you take over a program like Urban Meyer was the master. Urban Meyer, again, probably maybe the second best coach in Ohio State history behind Woody. Literally, like, he showed up and he said, these are my players. Now, they're not all good enough to play for me, but when you absorb a room, or when you're a position coach and you absorb your little position group, like, those are your guys. There's no more excuses. You can't say, oh, the players are all bad, because you can't. It's not, and again, it's more like the NFL now with the transfer portal, but you got to coach the guys you have. There's no guarantee that when you go out to the portal, you'll get guys that can replace them and they can be better. And again, like, it's like Peyton Kirkland going there is just perfect, because he was a guy highly touted, went to Texas. It was probably too hard. He was probably too fat. He ends up going to Colorado. He'll go there. He'll probably sink. And again, Coach Prime, who, again, his name's Deion Sanders, not Coach Prime, hired Phil Lodeholt to be the line coach. Phil Lodeholt has never coached the offensive line before. Now, he was a very good player at Oklahoma. He was a Pro Bowler with the Minnesota Vikings. But, I think he might have had a small coaching job, but he's never coached at a major college level as the sole offensive line coach. So that is the guy that won Jordan Seaton, and that's the guy that Peyton Kirkland and all these guys is going to go to. I was like, if I'm their dads, I was like, there's no way. I'm finding a guy who's been a solid 25, 30-year veteran, 15-year veteran, not a guy who's brand new trying to figure it out. And, the thing about Deion is, like, what happens when his kid and Travis Hunter declare for the draft next year? Like, is he really going to stay at Colorado and try to, like, build a program, or is he out the door? Because I can't see him when he doesn't have a top 10 pick at quarterback and a top 10 pick at, corner/wide receiver. Why would he stick and hang out and, get his brains beaten? Because, Colorado is a terrible job. I mean, it was great in the early 90s when they won the national title, but there's no in-state talent in Colorado. There's no prestige to Colorado. Coach Prime's made it into something just because of his panache, but that wears thin when you get your brains beat out. Like, you can show up and wear Louis Vuitton sunglasses and have the little special primetime sunglasses and do all that, but when you get your brains beat out, none of that matters anymore. So it'll be real interesting. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited to see what Dallin can do out there. It'll give us a reason to watch Colorado. Again, I root for all these guys when they go elsewhere. As long as they don't go to Michigan like Roddy Gale and Tony Alford, I'm all for hoping that they find a happy place and they do well and whatever. And obviously, people watch Colorado anyways. It's because they like to see the train wreck. They like to see the train fly off the cliff. And that's what Colorado football was, the second half of the year. I mean, they were horrifically bad, and their coaching staff actually got worse. So I don't know how people think they could ever get better, but it'll be really interesting. Nevada, the Arizona State ruling was an interesting one because they got smacked pretty good by the NCAA, and I pulled that statement. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Like, what does that mean for Michigan in your eyes? And again, this is directly from the NCAA's website. The titles violations occurred in Arizona State football program. And again, we talked about like kind of the key quotes where, Jason Leonard, who was the executive director of athletics compliance at Oklahoma, and he was the hearing officer for the committee on infractions. So this is how it works. Like they find, kind of like an independent arbitrator to run the case. And so that, they hired the top guy at Oklahoma's compliance department to sit in, listen to the facts, listen in on the interviews, make a decision. And that's kind of, if you guys want to like open up the hood and see how these things are done, they get a top guy or a team of top guys to make a decision on what the ruling should be. And again, we mentioned this on the other day, but this was Arizona State's cooperation throughout the investigation and processing of the case was exemplary. And the cooperation began with the leadership shown by the university president. And then Jason Leonard continues, the school's acceptance of responsibility and decision to self-impose meaningful core penalties is a model for all schools to follow and is consistent with the expectations of the NCAA's infractions program. Nevada, I thought that was a very powerful statement. And I also, and again, this all happened in 2020 during the COVID-19 restricted contact period. But I thought that was a very poignant statement because, these guys basically, they knew they were guilty. They sang like canaries and they still got smacked really hard by the NCAA. What does that mean for Michigan? Michigan did something that was much worse and they basically thumbed their nose at the NCAA. They did not cooperate. And again, the NCAA is investigating this paper trail. And again, this stuff takes time because again, this is a big time operation. But what were your thoughts when you saw what Arizona State got hit with after how they acted versus the way Michigan acted?
Well, when you talk to people at the NCAA, they said that the statement about the Arizona State thing was no mistake. That wasn't random words that they're putting. It was very pointed in terms of trying to draw a bright line between what Arizona State did and how they handled things with exemplary cooperation, jumping on things, self-imposing, and contrasting that to Michigan, which is going to. I mean, the Michigan stuff is going to be there. There was not exemplary cooperation. In fact, there was stonewalling. The only self-imposed portion that Michigan had done was on Cheeseburger Gate, where they had given a penalty that the NCAA deemed to be insufficient. So that's why the NCAA and the Big Ten, or the Big Ten, went and imposed more. And the NCAA hasn't even accepted and is still adjudicating the situation with Harbaugh. So, these two cases, while different cases, they're drawing a line between them, and they're pointing out the differences between them. They're pointing out the differences between the conduct of the university presidents of Arizona State and a very belligerent university president at the University of Michigan. So for Michigan, who's looking at an Arizona State team that just went on and had a 1-year bowl ban, vacated wins, had multiple show causes, had a fine and scholarship reductions, it's absolutely chilling for Michigan. This type of situation right now couldn't be more different from what Michigan had a multi-year involving 38 separate games of cheating. And for the NCAA, and then they stonewalled it. Then they didn't cooperate, and then that's thrown on top of an already level 1 ongoing investigation. So for Michigan, this is absolutely the worst possible case scenario. And the fact that the Arizona State thing broke right before it, and they can draw these contrasts between them, it's just not. It's just not good. And I want to point out one other thing. There was a quote by Charlie Baker about Michigan won the championship fair and square. This has been the most misquoted, out of context taken statement that the Michigan fans have been holding on to. Everything. If you read what Charlie Baker said before that and what he said after that about the ongoing investigation, how this has nothing to do with it. I mean, they've seized on one part of that. Oh, Charlie Baker said we won fair and square. It's over. It's gone. It's guys, go read the quote. Take 10 seconds and go read the entire quote by him and the context of the entire quote by him and put it. And you look at that in the light of what's going on with Arizona State and with everything else. And it's for Michigan fans. It just spells bad news going forward. And I can't wait. While these things do take time, I mean, it was pointed out to me the cheeseburger thing. Well, the cheeseburger thing was a COVID violation. It hadn't been discovered, I think, until 2022 late or 2023. So they actually moved it along fairly quickly. I expect the Michigan cheating scandal to proceed similarly quickly. We had thought March, April. We're getting towards the end of April, but I'm still confident it's going to be. They're going to handle down that initial letter of allegations here shortly. And when that happens, it's just going to be glorious because Michigan fans, feeling, oh, we won fair and square and we're out and nothing's happening, man. Nothing could be further from the truth, guys. It's about to get really, really bad for you guys.
Yeah, and this article is from December, but it mentions that the NCAA sign stealing investigation is likely to last many more months. Michigan did not yet say the notice of allegations. They've got 90 days to respond. And then there's a hearing in front of an infractions committee. But Charlie Baker, your boy, he said, we do have a series of discussions going on with the infractions folks about whether or not we can't do some things to speed up the pace of our investigations. Because certainly in a case like this, you'd like to be able to move a lot more quickly because this is a very severe case. It's a very obvious case. So, they feel the need to potentially speed it up because this was this was literally cheating in a game illegally. The paper trail, like I said, is glorious. I mean, between the tickets purchased, the stringers, the people they interview, the fact that everybody ran for the hills. I think it's going to be astounding what happens to Michigan after this because, again, like these are thorough cases. These are big cases. And the NCAA wants to get it right. They want to get all the data composed. And, Michigan didn't cooperate. And again, I think when you're caught in a situation like this, I just think that cooperation is, it's not fun. People might call you a narc, a rat, whatever, but it's the best way to lighten the punishment. And Arizona State cooperated fully and they still got smoked. Scholarship reductions, the like. I mean, bowl bans, and they cooperated fully. Michigan didn't do anything. I mean, Carter Stallings didn't talk. Jim Harbaugh said he had no idea about it. And again, at the end of the day, like when you're the head coach of a college football program, it's a lot like being like Walmart. So, when Walmart or Nike got busted for sweatshops 20 years ago, and that was like the biggest story in the world that, these shoes are made in sweatshops in parts of Asia and people make pennies a day and they're huffing fumes and they're working 18 hours and it's child slave labor and all that. Like Nike can't just say, oh, my bad. I had no idea that was going on because, my supply chain guy said that this is, I'll build your shoes, but I didn't ask any questions after that. Like Nike or Walmart or any of these places get busted for things like that, they're still on the hook for the bad PR, the issues, the fines. And again, that's like Jim Harbaugh. Like Jim Harbaugh can't just say, oh, I had no idea what, some intern was doing in my program who happened to be next to the offensive coordinator and next to the defensive coordinator and having the whole team know if it was run or pass. Like, I had no clue. Like, I mean, it doesn't pass the smell test, and that's the thing about you know, at some point in life, like, you can't just play dumb. Jim Harbaugh, he might act dumb, and he might wear khakis every day, and he might like drink milk with steak every night at dinner, which is all weird. But at some point, he actually is a pretty sharp guy in terms of being a football coach. And a guy like him, who's been coaching football for 40 years, is going to realize, this guy, who's this intern, has kind of the golden ticket. He has a way to get our team to be really good all of a sudden because we know what's coming. And again, like I said, I akin it to any other thing in life where you can get a huge advantage, whether it's the stock market, whether it's playing poker, whether it's throwing a futures bet, some inside information. Like, when you know something that's going to happen that you're not supposed to, and then you can make hay from it, like AKA win games, win money, place bets, buy stocks, sell stocks, whatever, then that's generally illegal. Generally. Now, again, does it happen? Sure. But that's where they're at. And just because you try to play dumb and say, I had no idea, like, Jim Harbaugh is culpable for everybody in that building. Everybody in that, if you look at the org chart for Michigan football, he's at the very top of the umbrella. And then there's probably 100 people underneath him, from the trainers to the coaches to the strength staff to the admins to everybody that's in that building. They all roll up into Jim Harbaugh. So he can't sit around and say, well, I had no idea that this kid knew every single sign. He was picking signs and whatever. And again, the thing that'll be fascinating is when they get through the investigation and they talk about who was paying for all of this. How did Connor Stallions, who made 50 grand a year or whatever, pay off his $600,000 house? And, like, there's all these little, like, these big sloppy incidents that, his parents' house got paid off. Like, where was this money coming from? Who was paying for the tickets to these games, the flights, the hotels, like, whatever? Because it wasn't like they were just going to Central Michigan every weekend. They're going to, Penn State, Ohio State. Those tickets, where they're sitting at, those tickets are probably $1,500 a piece. I mean, right behind the bench, like, where you can get a good view of the signals. Like, so someone's footing the bill for that, because he ain't doing that on his little peanut salary. So it'll be interesting to see who else gets implicated in the whole circumstance. Nevada, we got some super chats. Do you have any rebuttals on that? Because again, it is pretty astounding at this point.
Well, no, I think they already identified the booster that did it. They were bragging about it on the board. They were talking about, hey, I want to love Connor for his great idea that I funded, and it really worked well. I mean, like, it's all laid out there. They were shamelessly, touting this entire thing. And then we still haven't even talked about the Connor Stallions on the spy glasses this year on the sideline at the CMU game, or the Blake Corum on the LLC for the vac. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, if there ever was a case that screamed for lack of institutional control, it's this one. I mean, it's this one. This is, for on-field stuff, this is way worse than Penn State. And I mean, this is SMU bad. This is like, we don't care about the rules. It's just an absolute total free-for-all. They're at Michigan, do anything to win. Look how they handled their basketball coach. They let Juwan Howard assault multiple people out there on national television, opposing players, opposing coaches, his own players, his own strength. I mean, and they kept him on there forever and ever. Just, Michigan is such a mess, and I can't wait for the hammer to fall on them. I can't wait for all these bad things to go. It's like Christmas. It's like you look forward to Christmas, where you're like, I can't wait for that to go, and it's something, something good's going to happen. Well, that's how I feel about this. And the best part is we don't know when it's going to drop. It could drop tomorrow. It could drop next week. But I love the sort of Damocles hanging over Michigan's head, because the objective Michigan fans know it's coming, and they know it's going to be bad, and they just don't know when it's going to all hit. And that what makes it extra delicious. So I love it. As far as I'm concerned, they could string it out another 3 years, and I'd be totally fine with that, because the longer the not knowing when the tsunami is going to hit is much worse than knowing and bracing for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, the guy who is Uncle T, who's allegedly the point man for Connor, who's wearing a red tie, which is very spiffy, very. I mean, this looks like a or this like a tie setup Urban Meyer would be wearing. He denied being Uncle T. Uncle T is the guy that allegedly was funding everything. And this guy denied it, and but he was, a board member of the Champion Circle, which is, the highest realm of Michigan donors, and again, these guys are a lot of these guys are douchebags. A lot of these guys are, they're jock sniffers. So if you told some guys, hey, by the way, we could beat Ohio State. I've got this silver bullet where we can kill the silver bullets. And you lay the whole plan out. Like some guys like this guy could dive in there. Now, again, I'm not saying he did it because he denied it. But again, it's somebody named Uncle T is who was named in all the reports. So is it Tim Smith? I don't know. Is it somebody else? Like, is there? And again, that's the thing that's under wraps right now is what did the NCAA find when they did forensic audits, when they did the all of the reviews of the electronic stuff? Because Connor Stallings was very sloppy when it came to, sending money, buying tickets, everything was in his own name. I mean, it was almost hilarious how easy it was to trace a lot of it. So are there payments from Tim Smith? I don't know. I mean, but that's like, again, when these investigations are going on, that's some of the stuff that these guys are digging into. Well, Nevada, we could roll into some super chats at this point, but yeah, I think it's going to be a fun summer for us, and I can't wait for Michigan to get hammered because it's going to be amazing. W Buckeye, what is up, brother? It was great meeting you last Saturday. It's amazing. It's almost been about 10 days since we got together, but we'll get together again soon. Thank you for the 10. Is Coach Tressel's book, The Winner's Manual, still an important part of the culture within the football program at Ohio State? No. It went away with Urban. Tress used to do the Winner's Manual, for those of you that don't know, was a book that Tress gave to every player every year when he was a coach. And it was like a big binder, little spiral notebookish looking thing. But it was a really nice thing that we do. And it was sometimes it'd be kind of funny. Like every morning we'd get in there and it'd be 7 a.m. or whatever, or 7:30. We'd have our team meeting and we'd all bring our Winner's Manual to the meeting. And he'd pick a topic and it would be toughness or bravery or kindness or some random topic, and there'd be a bunch of quotes and stories, and you'd sit there and read it for about 10 minutes or so, and then Tress would walk up and does anybody have anything they want to share, and you raise your hand and you say the leaner the stay, the longer you play, Mohandas Gandhi or something. Like Rob Sims used to say that, which was hilarious because obviously Gandhi didn't really say that, but that was something that Jim Bowman put in all of our locker rooms all of our locker stalls where we played offensive line. He had this quote that said, "The leaner you stay, the longer you play," aka don't get fat so you can't get through a game. But Tress, I loved that book. There were some great stories in that book. There was one about gratuity and tipping and being a good person and that kind of thing. And I loved a couple of the stories that were in that section, but it was really good. Like, again, it's something that when you're young and stupid and you're 18, 19 years old and you're just trying to survive day over day at Ohio State. Because, when you get to Ohio State as an 18-year-old, like it's terrifying, because you're a young kid. And when I showed up, it was August 5th. And, I was on a team that was returning, 18 starters from the team that beat the Miami Hurricanes and won the national title. So, it was nothing but grown men like Tim Anderson and Will Smith and Darian Scott and Rob Reynolds and Chris Gamble and Will Allen. It was dudes in that locker. So it's like, when you're an 18-year-old in that room, it's a lot different than teams that haven't beaten Michigan or haven't won bowl games or whatever. Like that was a team full of dudes. So it was intimidating, but I liked that. Again, I don't fault Urban for going away from it because he probably didn't understand it. He didn't he didn't know it. It's not really his thing. And again, there's nothing worse than when a coach is inauthentic. Urban was Urban, which again, I appreciate that. Urban, when a new coach comes into the Woody Hayes, like they put their spin on everything. Like that's all, so certain things stay, a lot of stuff goes. And, that's the thing is you got to be you when you're that head coach and, if you're going to go down with the ship, if they're going to fire you, you better have them fire you doing it your way. Like Ryan Day's changed a bunch of stuff from what Urban did, for better or worse. And I'm good with that. Because again, Ryan's going to do it the way he thinks is the best way to do it, not the way that Urban did it, or Woody Hayes, or Paul Brown, or Earl Bruce, or Truss, or Coop, or whoever. So yeah, Nevada. I don't know if you can add anything to this because I don't really know if you're there.
No, but I want to ask you to. Urban was big on the E plus R equals O stuff, and maybe you can kind of explain the genesis of that and how he kind of communicated that and what that all thing was about. Because I'm not even sure if I know the whole thing on that. So,
well, that was something that happened after I left. That didn't exist in 2012. It came in maybe 2013. Tim Kite, who I know, good friend, battling cancer, great guy, really sharp guy. He met Urban and kind of shot his shot at Urban. It was at some charity event, and Urban has the personality of like an ingrown toenail when he's at these donor events, because unless you're a guy who's rich and is going to write him a big check, like he has really nothing to do with you. Because again, he doesn't have the time for it. He's kind of an introvert, which is weird when you think about him screaming at officials on the sideline and stuff, but he generally doesn't like talking to people. But Tim Kett went up to him, talked to him about his leadership stuff that he did and the system, and culture eats whatever for lunch. Culture eats systems or perform or whatever. He had like all these sayings that Urban loved, and if you catch Urban when it's a full moon and the light is right, and all of a sudden like the light bulb goes off in his house, then he's gonna invest in it. And he had his coaches take the classes, and the coaches were leading unit meetings where they're talking about E plus R equals O, and it's like event plus response equals outcome. And you can't control the event. The event is like whatever happens, but you can control how you respond to it, and then that equals the outcome. So if you give up a sack for a fumble, that's the event. Your response is, okay, I'm not going to give up any more sacks. I'm going to dominate the rest of the game. And the outcome is like you win the game or whatever. So that was real hot for a while. It faded, I think, towards the end of Urban's tenure. And Ryan didn't retain Tim Kite. So that was an Urban thing that died on the vine with Ryan. But that was like, those guys were everywhere, traveled with the team and whatever. But that thing's kind of gone now too. Anything else?
No, that was good. Appreciate you explaining that.
I try, man. This Ohio State historian over here. NJ,
Yes,
Phil, thank you for the deuce. Would you rather transfer to Colorado or Michigan? Nevada, I'll let you go first because I was speaking for a long time.
Colorado, for sure. Colorado for sure. Look, anywhere's better than going to Michigan. Going to Colorado, I don't understand going to Colorado. I think it's a questionable decision going to Colorado, but Kirk laid it out like Tony Alford and Gale and anybody's going there. They're dead to me. Colorado's just questionable, but it's not like Michigan bad. So no, for me, it would be a really simple decision. If I had a choice between Colorado, Colorado's beautiful. First of all, the campus is beautiful there in Boulder. The fans are great. The people are great. They really support their team. They do so. I just think it's a program that's kind of heading in the right direction. Michigan is Michigan. I would never. That was a super easy one. I think it's gonna be tougher for Mr. Barton though, because Barton is the closet Michigan fan. So maybe it's tough. For me, for Nevadabuck, not a tough call. Colorado, Michigan. But I'm really interested to hear Mr. Barton's answer on this.
Now, is this me or is this my kid?
I don't know. I think maybe it's you. Maybe it's you transferring.
So is this like during the Lloyd Carr Rich Rod era or the Lloyd Carr era? Colorado stunk.
Who was the coach? Who was the coach when they won the national championship?
Lloyd
McCarthy. No. I'm talking.
Oh,
you're
talking about. Yeah. It was McCarthy. Yeah.
Yeah, McCarthy. Yeah, that's right.
Because Colorado was terrible when I was there. Like around my age, they were terrible. So
so you transferred to Michigan. So you go to Michigan?
God less, man.
Oh, I can't believe this is even hard. Oh
I
my
mean,
God, what is going on?
we
Oh,
beat in 2011 with Joe Bowserman when we were the worst team in the history of Ohio State football. We beat the brakes off the Colorado Buffaloes. Like beat the brakes. And they were that bad. They had your boy Bakhtiari at left tackle too, and they were terrible, like terrible. So it's like, do I want to win and get a better education, or do I just hate Michigan that much that I want to go get my brains beat in and play for Coach Prime? I mean, that's a tough call, like for me. Now, again, I like Colorado a lot. My in-laws lived in Boulder. I've been to multiple Colorado football games. Colorado has the most beautiful campus and the most beautiful stadium I've ever seen. I mean, it's incredible. If you guys have never been to Colorado Buffalo games, get the little pass to go up to the bar. There's a bar in the corner end zone called Ralphie's Corner. And Ohio State could never do anything like this because, for one, like our stadium, it like the shoe's like beautiful and it's the shoe and stuff, but if it wasn't the shoe, it kind of sucks. Honestly, it's kind of old, rundown and stuff. But like this place is like nice. I mean, they've got really nice stuff. They have like glass fire pits, and I mean, it was like crazy how nice it was. But I couldn't imagine like Ohio State doing that because people like our fans drink more alcohol than any fan base in the history of mankind. So I couldn't imagine how sloppy people would get if they had this giant, beautiful bar with these really nice sections that you can sit in, like at the Horseshoe. It would be insane. But at Colorado, where people don't really care and they're happy to, go 6-6 every year, and everybody's usually high, it works out just great. But it's, I like Colorado, but God, they suck at football, man. I mean, they're just terrible, and they're just as bad with Prime as they've always been because there's no in-state talent. There's no real tradition since Rashawn Salam's been there. So I'd go to Colorado begrudgingly just to have a good time and just kiss the NFL goodbye and kiss winning goodbye and just kind of float through life because they did suck. I watched them play USC when they had Barkley they had Darnold, and Darnold just threw for 1,000 yards against them, and it was terrible. And I watched them play Arizona State when they had Zane Gonzalez, the kicker for the Browns, who they caught a few years ago. But yeah, I'd go to Colorado.
interesting point. Interesting point. When last time I was there was when the Pepper Johnson and Chris Spielman were the linebackers, whatever year that was, and when Colorado's been let out in the field by Ralphie broke loose and ran off this thing in terms of like trampled people down the thing, which I thought was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Ralphie running loose on things. He broke loose from the handlers. That happened. If you were there, for people that were there, they remember that. They remember Ohio State fans. Any other Ohio State fans were there in Colorado when that happened? Oh, there's Ralphie. Oh no, that's Barton. I'm sorry.
That's me. So, but this is the rooftop bar. This is the corner of the stadium, and this is right before kickoff. Like they're doing warm ups, and like there's like these really nice that's like a glass fire pit and these nice futons. And I was like, I couldn't imagine this being like an Ohio State game because people would just be so ripped. It'd be hilarious, but it was beautiful. I'm wearing my Colorado gear. So, I don't know. I mean, they're happy to go to a bowl game. This is the return shot with the little Kirkster. Like I said, it's beautiful an environment as there is. Now, the football stinks, and I know that the tickets are way more expensive now because of Prime, but man, oh man, it's like they're just so bad. I mean, that's like the thing I can't get over is like how bad they are, and I wish it wasn't like that. I wish that I just cared about, football. But I mean, we were at a tailgate and there was like fresh lobster and seafood. It was way too high class for me, man. Because I need draft beer and chicken wings or, whatever you get in the crock pot for a tailgate. Like I'm not into the whole seafood thing, but it was fun. But I mean, they just, they have no expectations. It's hard to go somewhere where there's no expectations. Buck Nasty, thank you for being ultra member. Thank you for the 10. Having a top 5 defense and offense competing daily, how much better does that make a program preparing for the season and during? I think it makes the program way better. because we had that in '05 when we had AJ and we had Dante Whitner and we had Kudla and those guys, Ashton Yabodi. Like we had a Nate Sally. We had a loaded defense in '05. And our offense was loaded. Our offense, like when we went three wide, it was Gonzo, Santonio Holmes, Teddy, Troy Smith, Pittman, Nick Mangold, Rob Sims, NFL stalwarts. We had 4 NFL draft picks on the O line. So I think it makes it much better. I think it's always good when the toughest part of your week is practice during the week versus your team's defense, as opposed to you're getting ready for some juggernaut on Saturday that you can't even imagine. Like if you play it like Kent State and you have to go play Alabama back in their prime, and that happened, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whenever it was, when they went down to Tuscaloosa. Like that is a major eye opener, because there's nothing like your scout team can do or the guys on your roster that can do that can compare you to, playing All-American defensive tackles, DNs, the speed, the power. But yeah, I think like my senior year when I made first team All-American, the 2 DNs that I played every day were Cam Hayward, who started as a freshman, and Vern Golson, who went 6 overall in the draft. So like those guys were as good as anybody I'd ever see ever. And even Cam, even as a freshman, he was still astoundingly good for being an 18-year-old. And again, like to be a freshman and start in the Big Ten on the number 1 defense in the country. And again, that's the statistical number 1 overall total defense. I'm not just saying it because I'm a big Buckeye fan and go Bucks and those are my boys. Like literally they were statistically number 1 in total defense in the country. I mean, they were awesome. I always wanted to kick off. I always wanted those guys to go first. I always wanted those guys to go 3 and out, get a punt, we get the ball to 50, go score, and then get the avalanche rolling down the hill, like we used to do in '07. But I think it's so huge, and I think that's kind of the glory about this year is that people will go to practice and say the offensive line stinks and this guy stinks and Will Howard stinks and everybody stinks, but they're playing against Jack Sawyer, who's going to be an All-American this year. They're playing against Ty Leak. They're playing against JT Tuimoloau. They're playing against Caleb Downs. So, it's when they get to a regular game, they play a regular team, like it's going to be like easy mode. And that's what I love about this team is that there's a team in the country that's going to have a better defense than Ohio State this year. So whoever they go against, it's not going to be the same as Caleb Downs and Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock and Igbinosun and the like. So I think it's huge. And that's why you recruit. That's why you transfer portal. That's why you put all those pieces together because, like, again, I know it's the biggest cliche in the world that iron sharpens iron, but it's true. And I think that it's going to be a big benefit for Chip Kelly. And even Chip Kelly going against Jim Knowles, I think it's huge. Just because those guys could go against each other. If one of them gets the other one on a blitz or pass play or some call, they can go over it, when they're in the locker room and say, hey, what was this? What was that? What's the answer to that? How do we fix it? And I think that's where you kind of fortify both sides of the ball because, like you can figure out answers because Chip Kelly is going to push Jim Knowles and Jim Knowles is going to push Chip Kelly. And so that'll inspire a lot of growth in the two staff rooms between the offensive and the defensive staff rooms because they'll say, hey guys, they got us on this scheme. How do we defend this? What do we need to do? What do we need to check to? What do we need to change? And I think that's going to be really, it's going to be really good for this team again, because they'll see stuff that they've never seen before. And then they'll be able to find answers for it to when they actually see it in a real game. Nevada, your thoughts? Buck Nasty asked a fantastic question. Appreciate you again, my man. Thanks for being an Ultra member. Having a top 5 defense and offense competing daily, how much better does that make a program preparing for the season and during?
Well, I think it's like you said, it's huge, and I think for Ohio State, especially where it's best in America, and you get a chance to go up against the best, day in and day out. But I have a question to you about that again, to the old All-American. How much best versus best are they doing versus like number one offense versus scout team, and like just if you had to do a rough percentage in your head, how much how much time are you spending going up against the ones versus going up and practicing stuff and installing stuff against the scout team who's just trying to kind of give you a look?
I think it really depends on the time of the year. I think early in the season, like Tress, because again, I talk to Tress all the time. And now that he's retired and he's like Yoda and he's got all this great knowledge, like I try to pick his brain on what was your thought coming into a season when you opened with a bunch of cupcakes? Because like what Tress would do literally, and he doesn't say this to you when you're a player or even when you're a coach, but his mentality was like, look, if we open with Akron and Western Michigan like we do this year, he basically just keeps training camp going until the bye week. Because I mean, we have our training camp, and then we have Akron, then we have Western Michigan, and then we have a bye week. So Chess will be doing a lot of ones versus ones, good on good work, because that's the only way you can get better. I mean, when you're playing Akron and Western Michigan to open the season up, like those guys aren't going to make you any better. We could roll the helmets out there today and beat them by 70. Now, obviously, you don't like to say that, but it's the facts. So, but later in the season, when guys are more beat to death and they feel like trash, like you go less and less good on good because, guys are really physically beat up by the end of the season. So by the end of the year, you do a lot more scout teamwork. The scout teamwork is generally a lot more of a chill tempo as opposed to, the one-on-one is live. It's like you're playing a game rep versus whoever. So obviously it heightens the chance of injury. It heightens the chance of, someone getting through and, a helmet, a thumb getting hit on a helmet, whatever. Where the scout team stuff it's more relaxing. Like when I had to go against scouts, it was just kind of like, make it look good for the camera, get the good footwork in, whatever. But it wasn't anywhere near as physically daunting or as, it wasn't stressful playing against the scout team. Now, when you're playing good on good, that's a game rep. I mean, and you don't want, if you don't bring it versus Vernon Golson or Mike Kudler, one of those guys, like they'll embarrass you, so that was like something where it's like, you can't be chilling on those reps, man, or you're gonna look like a douchebag in film. So I think that they lessen it as the season goes. And that's something that, that's not just an Ohio State thing. That's kind of a thing that happens across the board. But, Tress had us doing good on good up until basically almost the end of the year. We'd always do some good on good and get some shots versus the defense. He always liked to do red zone. We do like a red zone thing on Wednesday, and we do like a red zone pass. Thursday, it's all scout team work. Tuesday, you usually do some one versus one stuff. Inside run, which is a real physical drill, and then you do a couple shots of team. But as the season went on, it was more and more scout team work. And Urban was the same way. Even if Urban was all hellfire and brimstone, he still kind of did it the same way, just because, you gotta get the guys to the game, man. Again, as much as you want to be this cruel, twisted, Vlad the Impaler type taskmaster when you're out there as a coach and beat these guys into a pulp, like you got to get the players to the game. Because no one will feel dumber than you if you put the screws to the kids and then they're not good enough to perform in the game because they're too beat up or they're actually hurt. So yeah. Your thoughts on that, Nevada? Is that about what you expected?
No, yeah, that was. But I appreciate the original question, and I appreciate your follow-up question answer. I think that was super informative. Appreciate you sharing that.
Always. All right. The Blues. Oh, my guy. Your one and only logical Michigan Wolverine here. With Michigan landing Marshall today, do you feel recruiting will pick up despite the obvious incoming penalties? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think if these guys get smacked, which I fully expect them to get smacked, I think some of these kids will get a little skittish. I think some of these kids will get cold feet. Again, like, and again, I one thing I promise you is when we do our next merchandise drop, there's going to be a shirt that's going to say, I don't mean to sound like an old head. And it's going to be red on the shirt, like the massive shirt. Because every time I say I don't mean to sound like an old head, it means I'm going back in the time machine so I can exactly sound like an old head. But like, when Jim Tressel got whacked, Memorial Day, gets fired, all of a sudden, kids that were really solid that dreamed of being Buckeyes, like Kyle Kalis, all of a sudden got really cold feet. And guess where they all went? They went to Michigan and they went other spots. And, it is what it is. Again, things happen for a reason. But, so when these kids are committing to Michigan like today, these kids are, they don't care about anything at this point. And if Michigan gets crushed, in the era of the portal, in the era of these guys flipping, I can't see how these kids are going to stick to Michigan when none of the coaches stuck. Ward Manuel's probably going to get fired. So what are you really sticking to? But again, that's just my opinion. And again, like they've swapped out multiple defensive line coaches this offseason. So I don't know. If I'm a Michigan kid, and if a kid's coming to Michigan right now, I think it's because he's truly dense and doesn't have all the information. But again, that's just my opinion, and I could be dead wrong, but I don't think I am. Again, we study this stuff incessantly because this is what we do for a living. And I just can't see, when you read all the tea leaves about what's going on in Michigan, how any of these kids are going to want to stay there when they're sanctioned to death. Nevada, your thoughts. The Blues says, with Landing Marshall, who's a recruit that committed today, do you feel recruiting will pick up at Michigan despite the obvious incoming penalties?
Well, look, it's got to pick up because I think they only had like 2 recruits prior to this. One. And secondly, these are only verbal commitment. They mean nothing. We all know that. That's true for Ohio State. It's true for Michigan. It's true for anything. So, if circumstances change, which the circumstances are going to change, it's just a question of what's the timing on that. So when the circumstances change, that's going to have an impact, and guys are going to do it. But Michigan's recruiting's been really, ho hum the last few years. I think it'll continue to be home. It's going to be less than a home. It's going to get worse. Will it get a lot worse? Probably not until these sanctions are actually announced. But right now, they're not exactly knocking it dead. So I think it's just going to be continued to be like a low simmer. You get the occasional recruit. They're not going to light the world on fire. And then when the NCAA comes down, then maybe you lose half the class or whatever it is, and you start regrouping. But so, just not a question of if, just a matter of when.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have not seen a notice of allegations. Sorry, I'm on to Pooh Beard. I have not seen the letter of allegations for this episode. I've seen the one for the cheeseburger gate. The question is, again, Pooh Beard, thanks for being an ultra member. Thank you for the deuce. Is the initial letter of accusations from the NCAA made public in Nevada OH? I mean, December 20th, 2023, there's an article from the Detroit News where Michigan received a notice of allegations for the Burger Gate, which was from COVID. But I have not seen one regarding the sign stealing. So this was Michigan received a notice of allegations from the NCAA regarding its investigation into 4 alleged level 2 violations, including meeting with 2 recruits during a COVID-19 recruiting dead period that led to a level 1 allegation against Jim Harbaugh for allegedly lying and misleading investigators. Which again, Jim Harbaugh is, he's a slime ball, man. He's a snake, and it's kind of like when you talk about lying and misleading investigators. What do you think he did with the sign stealing? Oh, I had no idea what was going on. Okay, sure. So you had an intern on your sideline telling your coordinators what plays to call. Like, okay, head coach making $20 million a year, but you have no idea who this kid is telling your guys to call run or pass. Yeah, I don't think it's been made public. Nevada, do you have any contradictory knowledge of that? Because I just searched for it and I did not see it.
No, I think the question, though, was, will it be made public? And I think the answer to that is yes, it will be made public when it's published, but it hasn't been published yet. The only thing, as Kirk said, it's the cheeseburger thing is up, but when the biggest on-field cheating scandal in the history of college football thing gets released, I do believe that letter will be made public at that time, and we'll all get a chance to read it. I think that was the question. At least that's the way that I read it.
Yeah, again, so we covered both bases. Will it be made public? Yes. Has it been made public? No.
No.
So
correct.
There you go. So we covered both. Appreciate you, my man. ZZM, what is up, brother? Thanks for being ultra member. Thanks for the 5. What do you think about this statement? If Chip Kelly teaches Day how to make our run game consistent, Scum will be crying again for the next decade. Nevada, your thoughts?
If Chip Kelly, well, they'll be crying. They're going to be crying for the next day. Like, first of all, let's enjoy every year that Chip Kelly's here because I, I cannot say enough good things about the impact of Chip Kelly on this team, on our entire coaching staff, and on Ryan Day in particular. I think the offense this year is going to be absolutely devastating, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And yes, the result is going to be a lot of Wolverine tears um, because the game this year is going to be glorious. I'm going to be betting the game. I'm going to bet every bit of action I can on the early lines because I am telling you two facts. One, the public is not they're not exactly clear on how good Ohio State is, and two, the public is not exactly clear on how mediocre Michigan is going to be. So when you get those two things kind of going together, you're going to get a depressed line. I'm telling you, Ohio State's going to lay it on them big. This is an epic. This is the best. It's the best defense offense combination that I've ever seen in all my years following Ohio State. Every year you follow Ohio State, they might have that you know next level defense or that next level offense or whatever it might be. But it's hard to try to match them up. It's hard to find those years when it's both of them are operating at kind of legendary levels. Well, this is one of those years. You've got a defense that was number 2 in the country last year. 11 points a game, which is a crazy statistic. 265 yards a game, and the defense is markedly improved this year. An offense with all 5 returning start or essentially 5 starters returning off the line with McLaughlin coming in. Quinshon Judkins added, J.J. Smith added, Will Howard added. I mean, I could go on, but it's going to be a fun year, and Chip Kelly is going to be at the front of it. And yeah, he's going to be leading to a lot of Michigan angst for as long as he's here, and I hope it's at least the next 10 years.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I think Chip. Chip is going to be a godsend to our offense, and I can't wait to see him versus Michigan. I think he's going to do major work. And I also think Michigan's coaching staff and their talent is going to fall off the cliff without Harbaugh being there. Dick Buck, thank you for the 10. How do we let Nicholson go? This is a great question. Are we trying to preserve culture? The 21-foot wide left should serve as a reminder to Ryan Day, but I guess not. Can I get conference champ predictions for each conference 2024? Ooh. We'll start with Nicholson going to Bama. He's the kicker, obviously, the won the Lou Goes Award. He was born in Cincinnati. He is a kid that went to Miami, Ohio. He won the Best Kicker Award last year, and he promptly went to Alabama. Nevada, your thoughts on that? Because I've been talking about that kid for 2 months, and I was like, if he happens to enter the portal, because again, if you're kicking in the MAC and you win the Lou Groza Award, there is going to be a nice market for you where you can make some NIL scratch and go kick at a big time program. But your thoughts on that? Because I was very disappointed about that. Again, probably more disappointed than I need to be. But, we let the Lou Groza kid walk, and that would have been a huge add to our offense. But your thoughts?
Well, look, I'll say for the record, I do not agree with the decision. Having said that, I'll offer you 2 things, in the interest of being fair, let me give you 2 kind of countervening facts on the other side. One, Ryan Day has had the best offseason in the history of college football, so he gets the benefit of the doubt. He just does. Automatically gets the benefit of the doubt because he's been on such a tear there. 1. 2, Fielding, the kicker, has got 3 more years of eligibility. And their thinking within Ohio State is that while he wasn't far from perfect last year, they really liked what he did the offseason. They really liked what he did during spring ball. They really believe him, and they have him for the next 3 years. And they feel like that he answers their kicking problems for the next 3 years. And rather than go get a 1-year rental that may be a marginal improvement this year, and then you're looking for a kicker next year because Fielding's gone, You just stay with what you have, build on him, develop him, and hopefully by the time he's a junior and a senior, that he's the Groza Award winner. That's at least the thinking. I don't agree with that. I would have gone a different way, but that is what they're thinking in Ohio State, and that's why they didn't go after him, and they didn't activate the collectives. They didn't go to DEFCON 1 on it, and he ended up going to Alabama.
I mean, like the collectives weren't even notified about him, so that's when I knew that they didn't even try. Which again, we'll see. I mean, maybe you've got a lot of confidence in your kicker, but you know, when the Lou Groza winner is in your state, like, and he's from like Cincinnati, it's like you'd think that you'd take a big swing at the kid, but they didn't do it. Which again, it's questionable when you're loaded for bear at every position, and then you could go get a guy that won the Groza Award. And we haven't had one of those since Nuge in '04. Why not take a swing and maybe get another trophy? Because you know he's gonna probably repeat, given how strong our offense is gonna be and how good he'd be. But just my opinion. Nevada, we don't have to go through every conference, but conference championship predictions for each conference. Like I don't want to go through all of them because I obviously don't know. But you know, SEC, I'm going to go Georgia, of course. Big Ten, Ohio State. I don't know who's left in the Pac-12.
There's no the Pac-12's
Washington State or whatever.
Yeah, they're gone. There are only two teams. Exactly.
And then the ACC. I mean, I guess Florida State. I guess quarterback's back. DU Jungulele is there too. So I don't know. I mean, again, outside of the Big Ten, I don't really care. SEC, I just picked Georgia for chalk. But your thoughts, Nevada? Do you have any differing opinions? Are you going to take Texas in the SEC for my boy Quinn Ewers, or sticking with Georgia?
I'm gonna go Texas. I'm gonna go Clemson in the ACC, and in the Big 12. In the Big 12, I don't even know who's going to be any good. I mean, I'd be lying if I throw out some name of some team in the Big 12 that I thought was going to be good because I really don't even know who's going to. Is anybody going to be good in the Big 12?
I don't. I mean, who's there? Cincinnati, and I mean, they're not going to be any good. So I don't know. I mean, it's
Are the Kelseys still at Cincinnati, or are they gone? Did they go on to pro football?
They did a podcast there. Does that count?
Wow, that's cool. Yeah,
I mean, they did a podcast there. I mean, you know, we do a podcast. Now, it might not be as big as Travis Kelce, but you know, it's we do what we can do around here. We like where we're at, so it's all good. So there you go, Dick Buck. We did the best we could, but outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, like I honestly, I know what my strengths are, I know what my weaknesses are, and going outside of those two conferences, pretty weak. Done on Karen Rosbeck. We shipped the jersey today. Appreciate you. I hope you guys like it. There's nothing logical about any Weasel fan, Nevada OH. Nevada, is there anything logical about a Michigan fan to you?
Well, I want to say our logical Michigan fan that's been on our board here, that's been super chatting and asking questions and stuff. I think he's been very logical. I think he's been very measured, and that kind of discourse is always welcome here. And I just want to say that I appreciate him. I sincerely mean that. Now, I wish that Michigan fans were like them. No, the Michigan fan base in general, 99.99%, other than our logical Michigan fan that we have here, yeah, they're just dumb, and they're just I don't know what the word I've never seen, like even with Miami and the fan base, in their heyday, or Alabama or Georgia or US. I've never seen a fan base living in such delusion as the Michigan one, because like they won a title. That's great. You've destroyed the program. Your future's bleak. You've completely destroyed I mean, everything's going to heck. But for them, that was worth it. And I guess that's what comes from being so irrelevant for so long, that you feel like, okay, I just got one. I don't care about nothing matters in the future because we got that one. Everything was worth it. All the cheating and destroying the brand and the NCAA punishment and wrecking the vacated wins, the coaching staff exodus. It was all worth it because we had that one shining moment. I just don't understand it, but I think that's what happened when you get broken as bad as they've been for so long. that you're willing to give it all up for just that one. But for me as an Ohio State fan, there's no way I'd do that. I'm all about the future. I'm excited. I'm so excited about the 2024 season, probably more so than any season that I can ever remember. I cannot wait for them to tee it up. And I can't imagine being in a situation. It'd be like being an NFL fan. You know how it is when you're an NFL fan and your team's projected to go 1-16 or something like that, and you're like, "Oh my God, our season's over before the season even began." That's why I was with Packers for a long time. Remember, the Packers were really bad. We know that when they played Tampa Bay, it was called the Bay of Pigs game. When Tampa Bay was bad and Green Bay was bad, and you knew the season was over before it began, and that was horrible. I hated that life. And now it's like my Packers are good, the Browns are going to be good, the Cavaliers are in the playoffs, and the Buckeyes are about ready to make a roll. I can't imagine living life on the other side. And whatever the opposite of that, that's for Michigan's like bizarro world Ohio State, because everything is lost and they're never going to win again. And I think the fans know it, and that's why they're so broken.
Totally agree. Yeah, I don't think there's anything logical about Weasel fans, but there are some good Michigan fans. There are. I'm just being honest with you. Like Ed Bransky treats me amazing, and he's a Michigan guy, and a lot of you guys probably don't like him, but he's been nothing but good to me, and he loves Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel loves him, so there are some decent ones. There's a lot of scumbags and douchebags. So again, I don't only Siths deal in absolutes, and I'm not a Sith, even though I do love the
Ooh.
Siths more than the Jedis. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we do like
But
the cis rule.
they really do. I mean, they've got
They
Force
do.
Lightning. The Jedis can't screw
Yeah.
with that. Buckeye Blitz, thank you for the deuce at the next meetup. Can we have a tryout for kickers? I would love that. I'd say that Doreen would probably be a good kicker, just because she's got the charisma.
Well, first of all, I want to say kicking is hard. If you've never kicked the football through the thing, being a good kicker is hard. So I'd like to go out and have a little scoop, get out there where we get out there and we see, Burt Carton, the All-American. We'll see if he can kick like a 25, 30-yard field goal or something like that. And we'll have a little tryout. We have some of the people going on. I bet you we don't. I would say that if the people doing it, 10% of them might be able to make it, because it's hard. Even kicking an extra point's hard. Now, if you were kicking, would you try it like soccer style, or do you like the straight on square toe type of Tom Dempsey type of thing?
No matter what I do, it's not going to go anywhere. I've tried kicking a football before. I know that it's not my thing. I know that I don't hit it at the right angle. It's like golf. Like I can't golf. I can't kick a football. Can't hit a baseball. Like I know what my skill set is, and it's none of those things. So no matter what I did, it would suck. If it was like one of those things where I could win.
I'm right there with you, dude. I can't get the ball off the ground. I cannot get the ball off the ground. It's
and if I was in one of those kick it through the uprights 45 yards away for $1 million, I would go out and try to figure out a way to do it, but I probably still wouldn't be able to do it because I know my limitations in life, and that is just not something where I'd be. But I think like Doreen would be good. I think Devin would be good. There's a lot of people that could be good kickers. In the chat, Cujo the raccoon could go kick it with his little. I mean, I think that'd be outstanding. So put who you think would be a great kicker for Ohio State in the chat. And not in the text stream where I've gotten 700 texts today. Akeem, Devin. So, and all you guys that are in here, you guys are on their text and you should be chatting in here, but my phone is like blowing up and on fire. So it's pretty hilarious. Paul Lewis, my man, the Pappy Van Winkle King. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 50. Hi guys. What is your feeling about Joel Klass comment about Michigan will be a problem this year? And thank you for being a Hall of Fame member, Paul. I appreciate you, brother. Well, I mean, they've got us 3 years in a row, so I mean, they're always going to be a problem, and they're still Michigan, and it's still the game. So no matter who's up or down or sideways or whatever, you still got to get squared up and get ready to go for that game. And we've had the better team on paper the last 3 years, and we've lost 3 straight times. So something has to change, like the water in the Woody Hayes or the workouts or change the pancakes they make or whatever. Something's got to get switched up in there. And again, I think adding Caleb Downs and Will Howard and Chip Kelly is a huge switch up, and plus they lost everybody. So I think we're going to be in good shape. I think Michigan will always be a problem because they're Michigan, and it's a big game. And there's some people whose booty holes pucker up a little bit for that game, and there's some people's that get a little excited and a little aggressive for that game. So not everybody can win that game. It's tough, and I thank Christ every day that I had Troy Smith and Beanie Wells because that made it a lot easier for us to win the game. Let alone our defense playing really well in 04, 05, 07. So yeah, Nevada. Your thoughts from Paul Lewis? Again, Scoop Hall of Fame member, great dude. I thought he was coming to the meetup to assassinate me in his sunglasses and his black hat, but he actually gave me an incredible bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 20-year. So you are the man. I appreciate you. Nevada, your thoughts on Joel Klatt's comments that Michigan will be a problem for OSU this year?
Just bad take. I mean, Joel's been really bad lately, and is, and I like Joel Klatt, and I thought a couple years ago he was great. I think he's been. This isn't his first bad take lately. It's been a series of them, and they progressively get worse. I think it's kind of a troll take. I think it's just kind of throwing it out there. I never take Michigan for granted. I certainly never take Michigan for granted up in Ann Arbor. We've talked about that ad nauseum. This game's not in Ann Arbor. This game's in Columbus. This is the best Ohio State team I've ever seen, and I think they're going to lay it on Michigan big time. So I just think it just it's a lazy take by Joel designed to kind of inflame a large fan base like Ohio State, and that I think that was the only purpose of it.
Totally agree. Dave Matthews, thanks for being an ultra. Thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. If Fielding's long is like a 40, how much does the coaching change that? Can kickers really kick further, or are they just kind of set at their current range? I mean, they might kick a little bit further with their mechanics, but I think it's more of a God-given thing. It's kind of like a PGA Tour guy. Like, I mean, some guys can drive the 400-yard green, like Rory McIlroy or whoever. Brooks Koepka. So those guys can crush the ball, and some guys can't. And again, it's the same measurables. It's the velocity, obviously, it's the power, and that's something that I think that you're just kind of naturally born with. In terms of, like again, anything that's similar to this, like bat speed in Major League Baseball, your slap shot, in the NHL, things like that. I think that you can get somewhat stronger at them, but no matter how much I go out and lift and run and stuff, I'll never hit the ball as hard as, or I'll never hit the puck as hard as like Zdeno Chara did in the slap shot competition. He hit like 107 miles an hour, because they've got the torque, they've got the size, the mass. And that's why a lot of teams like big kickers, like a lot of these punters are like Darren Bennett was huge. Darren Bennett was like the godfather of Australian punters, and he was like a 99 on Madden for like 10 straight years because he had like 99 power and could kick it out of the arena basically. So I think mechanically you can get a little bit better, but I just think that being as efficient as you can when you talk to the coaches is to say, hey, this is his range today in these conditions. And that was what really sucked about the Georgia game is like, we needed to hit a 50-yarder to win the game or whatever. And like the kid had never hit like anything above 45. It was way out of his range. And that's why he shanked it like to all heaven, because he tried to hit something that he couldn't hit, which again, I say it's like if you gave me the greatest driver and the greatest, Pro V1 golf ball and said, Kirk, we need you to drive this 400-yard green for $100 billion. I'd be like, well, this is going to go great. It's going to go probably, 150 yards into the trees sideways, but it ain't going to 400 yards. No matter how much I bench and squat and swing the club, and like, it's just not going to get there. So this is my opinion. Nevada, your thoughts from Dave Mathis. If Fieldings is along a 40, how much does coaching change that? Can kickers really kick further, or are they just kind of set at their current range?
Well, I'd have to look at his stats. I mean, I actually thought he had a decent leg. I don't believe, again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I thought he had a decent leg. And I think, look, players get better. Offensive linemen get stronger. Quarterbacks get more accurate. There's a steady progression that goes along. I think the same thing with kickers. Like you said, you're not going to go from being a guy that can only kick at 35 yards to being a 55-yarder overnight. But if he's 45, 47, 48, could he get to 50? Sure. I think I believe that is a regular progression for a kicker, and clearly they believe in him. Clearly they believe him, but knowing your kicker's range and knowing what he's capable of and knowing what he's not capable of, that's the whole point of one of the biggest jobs for a college football coach, and that's what made Ryan Day's actions at the end of the first half last year against Michigan so mystifying, where he held off and didn't try to move the ball, didn't try to move stuff up, and settled for the 48-yard field goal. I can't even remember what it was, but it was a field goal that we missed. And you make that field goal, and that last drive, you're not throwing into the end zone for Marvin Harrison. You're throwing for the first down because you've got a field goal to tie the game. And so it changed everything. It changed all the play calling. It changed the momentum. It changed everything about that game because we missed that field goal. But, man, as much as you want to put it on field, I put that on Ryan Day for not trying to get that thing closer, not trying to do more to help the kicker, because you have to know, it's the old Dirty Harry movie from Magnum Force. Man's got to know his limitations. You got to know your limitations for a kicker, and that's part of the job of the head coach.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like, it's just such a weapon when you've got a guy like Nuge, or a guy that can just, drill it. Because we get to the end of that Texas game, I'm looking at the score right now, and we missed. I'm trying to see how long this field goal was that we missed. It was a 50-yarder. So, in 05, and again, 50s, it's a good field goal. Josh Houston missed it. And again, I'm not blaming Houston because obviously we could have played better. We didn't need to kick 5 field goals versus the best team in the country in Texas. But if we had Nugent, we hit that and we beat Texas, and we probably won the national title.
Does it have the play by? Is that the play? Do you have the play? Is that the play log there for that thing?
Yeah.
What was the play? What was the play calling that led up to the 50-yard field goal? Like, what was the sequence?
1st and 10, Justin Zwick complete to Ryan Hamby for 9 yards. So Hamby actually caught that one. Okay. 2nd and 6, Ted Ginn 5 yards out of bounds. So we're first down. Antonio Pittman rush to the Texas 29 for a gain of 0. 2nd and 10, Justin Zwick pass complete to Antonio Pittman for a loss of 1. And then this was one, I think this was to Santonio, but it was 3rd and 14. Justin Zwick pass incomplete to Roy Hall. That was Santonio, because if Justin hits Santonio, Santonio destroyed.
I remember this.
Destroyed. He destroyed that corner. Like, Santonio was feasting, and their corner was a first-round pick. But Santonio, he had 4 for 73 and a touchdown, but like, he was destroying that corner, and he hit him on a slant, and he was wide open. And Justin Earmel, which again is fine, it's part of football, but like, Santonio was wide. He's running the end zone, scoring a touchdown, and the band's chalked up. But like I said, it is what it is, and you gotta. When it's 1st and 10 on 20, like, you got to get more yardage for your kicker than making it a 50-yarder because he pushed it. And
exactly.
But again, like, if he hits that, the game's over. But instead they went down Lima Swede. But again, like you say about kickers, it doesn't matter until it matters. It's like nobody likes kickers, nobody cares about kickers. You take them in the last round of your fantasy draft, but they don't matter until they matter. And when you have an ace kicker, life is amazing. Again, ask the Ravens, ask the Chiefs, have Butker and Justin Tucker, and when we had Nugent, like, life's good. The year that we won the national championship, Mike Nugent was the best kicker in college football, and he won a lot of games and was nerves of steel, and that started off after he was terrible as a freshman. Him and Josh Houston were both freshmen together, and like, basically whoever would make the extra point would be the guy they'd have kick the field goal, because they were both awful as freshmen. So Nuge turned it around and became the best kicker in school history, in my opinion. And I know people, Tom Skladany and Flatty, but I take Nuge over any of those guys because of the distance of his kicks. And Jim Jackson, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. It was great meeting you last Saturday. Kirk, I'm hearing rave reviews about Tavion St. Clair. Key, do you forecast potential 2025 QB showdown between Tavion and Julian Sane? Nevada OH. I like Julian Sane over Tavion. Tavion looks like a monster, but it's going to be a big jump for him. And, Julian Sane obviously is going to be in year 2 in the offense, so he's going to have a huge leg up there, and he'll be more used to the competition. So will it be competitive? Sure. Do I think that Julian Sane is going to be our starting quarterback next year? Yeah. I mean, Tavion plays at Bell Fountain or Belly Fountain or whatever you want to. I mean, I know that someone's going to correct me in the YouTube comments, and please put the enunciation of Bellefontaine.
Bellefontaine. Bellefontaine.
Yeah, I know. It's like Albert Bell and then like Fontaine. But anyways,
Like
I know someone's
like
going to correct me.
Fontainebleau.
Exactly, like the Fountain Blue. Exactly. So Bell Fountain Blue is where he goes to high school at, and it's good ball, but it's not big time, huge Georgia, Texas ball, Florida ball. And again, he's the kid who's had as impressive of a rise as I've seen. Like a year ago, when he committed, people weren't, nobody's skirts were getting blown up when this kid committed last year. But now, if you look at his rankings, he's the number 6 player in the entire nation and the best player in the state of Ohio and the number 2 quarterback. So, has he grown up? Yes. Has he filled out? Yes. Like, I mean, again, that's why with some of these kids, I'm like, guys, like, wait till these kids are done with puberty. Because, like, some of these kids, they go from looking like little boys to, like, grown men in, like, 1 year because it's just natural. Like, that's what happens. And a lot of these kids, they put in a lot of work, and he's one of them. So, Nevada, how would you handicap Julian Sane versus Tavion St. Clair? Because I think, I like Julian Sane going forward as much as any quarterback we've recruited in the last 15 years. But what what about you?
I mean, to me, it's like King Kong versus Godzilla because you got 2 just massively talented kids. Julian's going to have a huge edge because, like you said, it's his 2nd year in the system. He'll have had a full year under working with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. But Tavion St. Clair, I mean, in terms of physical tools, he might be as impressive as anybody I've seen come to Ohio State at the quarterback position. I mean, he is a grown blank man, and it's impressive. He's an impressive kid. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, but experience is everything at the quarterback position, in my opinion. And I think Julian's going to have a huge leg up, but it's going to be a heck of a battle. Best man win, whoever that is. And when Tavion does get his chance, I think he's going to ball out because he is a specimen that can run and throw and do it all. And I think he's going to be a great Ohio State quarterback.
I agree with you. He is a monstrous dude. Well, Nevada, I think we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the show?
No, just appreciate so much everybody being here. If you want to, help us out, leave us a like. If you're listening to the show on Twitter, come over to YouTube. If you ever want to super chat, come on over to YouTube. You can super chat it in there, ask the questions. And as we always say, if you like this hour, you want to have fun the other 22 and a half hours a day, come join us at BuckeyeScoop.com. That's where we hang out. That's where we break everything first before we discuss it here in public on YouTube. But appreciate everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, I totally agree. BuckeyeScoop.com is the meta. About to be on there all night. Appreciate you guys, as always, kicking it. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click that like button on your way out the door. Those are huge for growing the channel. Also, click subscribe and click that little alert bell. Get alert every time we go. Go at 7 again tomorrow. Again, we appreciate you guys each and every night kicking it with us. Again, our core contingent of Scoop family that are on here every night. We appreciate you guys. This is the biggest group text of all time that I'm on, so you guys know who you are. My phone has been vibrating it nonstop, so I had to actually silence it so it stopped burning up my battery. But you guys were hilarious. I appreciate all you guys being on here as always. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you for making this a great episode. Thank you guys for being here. It's always a blast to kick with you guys each and every night, so we appreciate you guys. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 o'clock. I hope you guys have a great night. Go Cavs and go Bucks.